title. Okay. So Larry will fix it. Shows does.
Good.
Joe Tolle, good morning, sir. How are you? Hey, everybody, I got to tell you this before we get into our morning housekeeping. Joe and I have been friends for a couple years now.
Couple of years.
Known each other for longer than that, but just recently became what I would call somebody that I call one in my inner circle. And he just now told me that I've been pronouncing his last name wrong this time. So it's Joe Tolle, not Joe Tully, like I've been saying. So anybody that wants to throw eggs at me, now's your chance. Good morning, everybody, to the morning show. We are a little off because we had a last minute cancellation. Work always does that to everyone, and it happens. So we'll just do our best to overcome and make it happen. We got a shout out to GBC for all the help they give us. And they make some amazing tires. So if you're looking for truck tires, UTV tires, ATV tires, they're the company to go to. Those are the guys that are going to help you. Corey Ellis and the team over there. Those guys are just awesome. Elka suspension. What more can be said for pure domination? I believe over the last 2 years or the last 20 years, Elka's probably won more championships than all those other shock companies combined. Just an amazing group over there. They build some quality stuff. They have service centers on the East Coast and the West Coast, and they will help you as well. So look to Elka for your comfort ride. DBR builds custom parts. They build some production parts as well. ECU boxes, swing arm protection, just Nerf bars, all kinds of good stuff. Go over and check DBR out. They are a great company to deal with. Really nice people. Love the ATV industry. I know you'll really enjoy them. Joe, so we had a whole layout you and I did for this show, and we had to scrap it last minute. No offense, Adam McGill was going to be our guest. Adam, we wish you the best and hope that everything works out for you today. Just take care of it and knock it out of the park and whatever you're doing. But
I think, didn't you say Adam was off at a trade show doing some promotion?
Yes, he is. I wasn't going to get into it, but the Parts Unlimited people, they need to pat themselves on the back. They got a gold mine right there. That guy is awesome.
Well, and again, he's something you've talked about on the show. Is like how to promote your sponsors, how to get sponsorship being so competitive, and Adam does a really good job. I mean, it kind of sucks he's not here with us today. I don't think I've talked to him directly since he was racing for KTM. I went to a cross country race years ago when he was racing on the KTM 450 or XC, and wanted to catch up with him. But hey, the guy does a phenomenal job of promoting his sponsors, and looks like he forgot he had a prior commitment. So,
yeah, but the way it was explained to me is boss calls, you're in it, you're doing it. And that's how he makes his living and feeds his family. So we're just not we can't fault him for that. I mean, he's got to feed his family, and respect that 1,000,000%. So we'll just let the cat out of the bag early. On Tuesday, 5:00 Pacific Standard Time on all your podcast platforms, you'll get to listen to my Christmas present from Adam McGill. So he reached out to me on Christmas Day, and we taped the audio portion of our show. Unfortunately, there is no video because he was in the dark most of it because he was driving. But just an enjoyable conversation with one of the old school Ironmen, I believe, left in our industry. There's very few left, and he's one of them. So I know you're going to enjoy that episode. Joe, you got some stuff coming up here too, don't you?
Well, yes, yeah. But first, did you watch Supercross last night?
No, I did not watch it. I've been reading about it since you and I spoke, and you might as well just go with everybody's rah because my guy got fourth, and I'm still pissed.
Who got fourth?
Jet Lawrence.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was it was interesting. Him and Anderson after the race had a little helmet clinch when it was all over. Apparently, there was a little bumping and grinding that went out on the track, and those guys were irritated. I'm sure. Jet is in a, as nice of a kid as he is, and as great of an ambassador as he is for the sport. I'm sure inside he's got to be just super pissed or bummed out right now because, it was funny. Round one, before it even started, I've followed Supercross since '89, and because I'm old, but it was like, oh, Jet Lawrence he's the new McGrath. He's the new Carmichael. He's the new Bubba Stewart. Insert dominant champion here. He's the next guy that's going to run away every race. And that was what I saw. And then obviously he won round one. First year that a rookie in the big league class won his debut race. It took Jeremy McGrath till season 2 in the two, because obviously back in the day for the young people, Supercross, if you follow Supercross, today's Supercross is, the lights class of the 250s and the premier class of the 450s. Half the 250s race East Coast, half the 250s race West Coast. It used to be, it was 125 2-stroke, 250 4-stroke. I thought it was a little more interesting at the time, maybe, but that's maybe just personal bias. But yeah, you looked at the season, it looks like Jet's going to run away with the whole thing. And then he wins that first round, and it's like, here we go. First guy to win round one in the premier class. History has been made. And is he going to tick off, a dozen or so wins this year to start running down McGrath? And then mud race in San Francisco, and then mud race in San Diego. And it's just obvious that, he's not a top mud guy. At least he hasn't been these last couple of races. I don't know if it's something about the bike that's just not jiving in the mud for him, or if it's just he's not, the most proficient guy in the mud. But, round one, he wins it. Round two was Sexton, the defending champ, on a KTM. And then Alan Knowles calls me last night or shoots me a text. He's like, who's your pick to win tonight in San Diego? So I called him up, and I'm like, and I didn't really have I just pulled him out. I'm like, it's either going to be Eli or Plessinger's going to get it done. He's gonna seal the deal. And and he did, which was really exciting. Since you didn't watch the race, for anyone who's planning to watch it today on replay, you might want to cover your ears. But Cooper Webb was running him down the whole race. Plessinger got out in the lead pretty early because Ken Roxon made a mistake. And then Cooper Webb put on a heck of a charge, man. And in like every third of a lap, he's chopping a second off the gap. And it's just like halfway through the race, it's like, all right, Webb's going to get him. He's going to get him. But then Webb made a mistake. He bobbled, gave Plessinger a little gap back, and then started to run him back down again because he was definitely faster. And here comes Webb catching up to, well, first you've got Tomac, who's Cooper Webb's teammate on Monster Energy Yamaha, and he's racing with Plessinger to gain a lap back. Like Plessinger lapped Eli. Sounds, crazy. But then Eli starts running with him, and it's like, is he trying to get that lap back? Or is he trying to pressure Plessinger to make a mistake so his teammate can run him down? Like, I don't know how much perception those guys have of where everybody's at when they're out there.
I think that they know exactly where certain people are on the track, because they have to be so aware. And I mean, at that skill level, they can, ride the machine, look around, and do other things at the same time as they're doing it. I know it's tough in the mud, but I'll bet Eli knew exactly what was at stake. And to get Yamaha on the top of the box was the most important thing, as he was thinking, hey, it can't be me. but it can be my teammate.
Yeah, it could be Webb.
Help me.
Yeah, so it looked like Eli, because you just don't think about somebody who's a lap down unless you're talking NASCAR, where they got a chance of actually getting the lap back and then getting back to the lead. In a Supercross, if you're a lap down, your chances of getting back to the lead when you're halfway through the race, it's not going to happen. Nobody at no point could make up that much time. So, Eli's pressuring on Plessinger, and then here comes Cooper Webb. And not only did Plessinger lap Tomac, he also lapped Sexton, his teammate, the defending champ. So here comes Webb trying to race past Sexton. And don't you know, there was contact. I mean, I don't know who could have saw that coming, but there just so happened to be some contact. Might have been completely incidental. I'm just thinking, like, if it's my teammate up there who's going for his first win.
Yeah, I'm not gonna I'm gonna defend the KTM guy. Jesus, what is this world coming to? Lord, please help me.
You switching teams.
I'm not switching teams, but Saxton doesn't seem like the guy that's got big enough balls to freaking do that. I mean, no offense to Saxton. Okay, I don't know the guy. I've never met him, but just from the thing that the way last year went, and just some of the things that I seen during the outdoor season, I just think the guy's got BBs for testicles, and I just can't see him doing something like that would cause a confrontation, and he'd probably get his ass whooped. Excuse my language, everybody, but I just can't see it, Joe. I mean, maybe it was probably an accident, just an unfortunate coincidence for Webb, who I'm not totally a fan of. My son loves the guy and thinks he's the end all be all, and he loves Plessinger too. So he had his cake and ate it too yesterday with the way the results worked. Go back to what telling me how it was, brother.
Well, I wasn't trying to say it was dirty riding. I'm not implying that. Whether it was, like, hey, here's Eli battling to gain a lap back.
But you weren't not implying that either.
I was saying it could have gone either way. Flip a coin. could have been incidental. Could have been team tactics. Could have just been that all the stars aligned for, Plessinger to get it done, which all of us wanted to see last year when Plessinger was leading a race, about to win it, just loses it on the last lap. The whole race, me and my wife are just listening to Carmichael, like, oh, Plessinger's going to get it done. And we're like, shut up, dude. Don't jinx this. Shut up. And then he wrecked, and we're like, damn it, Ricky. And because we like to blame the commentators when riders have bad luck for their
right. Most of the time when the commentators get involved in something that's cool that's happening, whatever sport it is, it ruins it, right?
Those guys do a great job. Us giving the commentators grief is just extra level of fun for me and the wife who watch it every Saturday. So but in the end, there was a little rub between Sexton and Webb, and it bought Plessinger a couple extra seconds, got the job done, got the win, and I talked to his dad 3 or 4 times a year, because his dad, Scott Plessinger, 2-time cross country champ on dirt bikes, he owns East Fork MX in New Vienna, Ohio, and that's a place that we go, if we want a track day or we want to go film something in the woods, we do a lot of filming at his dad's place. So the last time I was talking to his dad, it's just like, Scott, man, we need your kid to get a win so he can get on the mic. Like, they should just give Aaron his own segment every round, whether he wins or not, to just let him cut a promo. Cause it's like, he's just great on the mic and everybody likes him. Nice kid. And for me, it was, now I'm just living slightly vicariously. It's like, I saw Aaron racing at the local gravel pit races back when he was on a KTM 65 and watching how fast he was. And it's like, okay, I actually know a kid and went and watched him race a handful of times that went on to win a Supercross main. So it's neat. And he's got a great personality and he's got kids. So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his family. Always been a fan of the 2-wheeled stuff. Still am. So Supercross this year. Other news. So that's awesome. And then Beta. I didn't see what their final placement was in the main. I'd like to go back and check, but I believe they qualified into the main through their heat. They didn't go to I don't think they even went to the LCQ. Unless the commentators were saying they were about to qualify and then they dropped the bike because the commentators were running their mouths again. But I'm pretty sure they qualified out of the heat into the main. So,
what happened to the Triumph?
Oh, the Triumph has a 250 this year. They don't have a 450 yet. And, I've been sitting here at the beginning of the season, like, where's Deegan? Oh, wait, that's right. Triumph and Deegan are probably running East Coast. I think Deegan's hurt. I don't know that's a fact, but I think Triumph's going to start campaigning on the East Coast, which is probably smart.
Deegan went from Yamaha to Triumph?
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to confuse you and everybody else listening. No, Deegan didn't switch teams. He's still on a Yamaha, 100%. I just was like, at the beginning of the year in round 1 in Anaheim, I was like, wait, why aren't we talking about the Triumph? Hey, where's Deegan at? Two separate subjects. And then I realized, like, oh, neither's here because they're probably both racing the East Coast, which we haven't seen an East Coast race yet. So I think Triumph, I don't know if it was a strategy. I would have played this hand in their position. The East Coast races for 250 don't start until, a month or so, about a month after the West Coast.
February 3rd? Isn't the race at February 3rd back east?
Okay, I didn't know what the date of the first round was, but yeah, that gives them another month. While everybody's working it out on the West Coast and through racing, they're back on the East Coast, probably still testing and getting the bikes right. I haven't paid attention to Arena Cross. Who knows? Maybe they're doing some of those.
I haven't looked at the Arena Cross at all. I probably should, but no, I haven't. I haven't looked at all. I try to watch as much as I can, but yesterday was just too many things going on. Had special guests in studio for some taping, had some buddies of ours that came over from England who step in and stop by to see me here. And it was raining, having work done on the property at the same time. And yeah, just too many things in one day going on, and it all tried to happen at the exact same time.
Well, I'm glad that running the blaster here at home is putting enough carbon in the air that I have now made California into a state that's no longer in a drought. And so I encourage everyone to go start their 2-stroke today and help California get rain later this year.
As screwed up as California is, their reserves, they're running them off because they're afraid that they'll overfill and cause damage. So they're dry. So they're opening the valves to make sure all that water runs out so that they don't ever have an overfillage problem or a dam break problem. So we don't have to worry about it. We're still in a drought, even though it's raining.
That's good. And talking about Triumph, looking at Beta and Triumph, it cracks me up. Now, I'm sure dirt bike numbers are bigger, but we're here to talk ATVs. Just had to touch on Supercross because it's like our cousin that hates us. But I look at Beta and Triumph, and I look at then I look at Suzuki, and then I bring it back to the ATV market, and I'm like, why? To jump in and build a new dirt bike and get a win and build that reputation, you're going into probably one of the most competitive dirt sports in the world as far as off-road racing. Because there's so many manufacturers involved and they're all spending money, and it's been going on now for 50 years. So, you've really got to spend a lot of money, and it's going to be a while before you get on the top of the box. So I come back to what we're doing in an ATV racing and sport quads and the need for them. And it's like, companies like Triumph should know. And companies like Beta should know. And maybe a Sherco who told me a few years ago, we'll never build a four-wheeler. It's like, okay, middle fingers up. See you later. But it's wide open in ATVs right now. If a company wanted to rapidly gain market share in a very underserved market where, you're going into racing Supercross and you want to win, you're going to go against, like I said, bikes that have been doing it for 50 years, manufacturers that have been doing it for 50 years. They've got their program dialed. If you come into ATV racing with a new model, if you want to, we want to get into power sports, we want to gain market share quickly, we want to get to the top of whatever segment we enter as quickly as we can, baby, come to quads, because as good as they are, what do you have to beat? You have to beat a bike that was developed in 2009 that uses engine technology that wasn't even current at the time. So love the YFZ 450R. It's the best we have. It's arguably the best one that was ever made, but it was made in 09. And I don't think that motor in 09 was on the same level as the 09 dirt bike motor. What do you say?
Well, you got a couple questions in there to answer. I'll go backwards to go forwards. We're talking about, if we use KTM as our platform, how they came into the industry of Supercross is they dumped a ton of money in it. They had FIM or the governing body in their pocket at the same time, so that it allowed them to run non-production machines in the series to boost them. They also had one of the greatest riders of all time on the machine. The guy running the show at KTM was arguably the best team manager you could ever have. So for Triumph, Beta, any of these other guys, they need to dig deep into their wallets, go out and hire the best people they can and get the best riders they can to produce it, because they're never going to get the governing body in their pocket. So they're not going to be able to ride the machines that KTM got away with. And that's an arguable discussion that we could have, and we'll have it at some other point. But that's how I see it based on how I followed the industry at that time. As far as building a machine for the industry today.
Yeah, building a machine that can surpass what the YFZ's platform offers.
I think engine technology, if you brought the motorcycle engine technology in, most definitely you're going to hit a home run with the 450. The governing bodies are going to choke it down and smog it down. So the aftermarkets are going to have to find a way around that for production or racing use only. I say that because there's other eyes watching this that are not our friend, but that's neither here nor there. All ATVs have to have.
Biden doesn't even know what we're talking about. He can't understand it, and he'll forget. So
he's not the one I'm worried about.
Okay.
Every ATV has to have a safety switch in it. Okay. And they have to choke them down as a recreational unit. So it's going to come with a thumb throttle with a governor screw in it so you can screw it down so nobody can ride it to potential. They're going to choke it down with exhaust and air intake system, where the aftermarket guys for performance usage are going to have to modify all that, which is okay. We don't mind. We don't mind it. It's one of the reasons why ATVs are so much more expensive to race than motorcycles, because we're fighting the government restriction at the same time. And the government restriction comes in because the manufacturers won't fight the government and change the industry standard on our machines. And I have to shout out to TPC for educating me on a couple certain points that I wasn't privy to, or maybe I was just not wanting to see the truth, and he explained it in such a way that I had no choice. So that being said, until the manufacturers step up and fight for their right to build a off-road machine or a race machine that's truly a race machine, it's never going to happen in this country or anywhere, because the factories
Well,
just
it's a given. We're going to face dual sport motorcycle like EPA restrictions from the factory, but
only because the factories won't push it forward that, hey, this machine is built for this purpose. Okay, because right now, if you buy in California, if you buy a 450 YFC 450R and you
can't.
buy a human, you bring it home, you can't register it in California, but you can't register your brand new dirt bike that you just bought either. You can only take it to the motocross track. You can't go ride it on government land. Well, who's the government? We are. I'm getting off on a tangent. I don't want to do that, but at some point, we have to fight back and change these rules, just like the government, just like the CEOs or the companies that are building this stuff need to step up and fight so that they can produce a product that is ultimately going to dominate the industry. Yamaha's 450R is an amazingly quality machine. Maybe I was a little naysayer in the beginning, but man, the more you work on that Yamaha, the more I like it. The better of a machine that it is. The engine is really stout as long as you follow specific little maintenance rules with it. You can talk to the guys that race them. You can talk to the other engine builders. They like them as well. So it's a good machine. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think it's definitely a good machine. And when we did our 2010 450 motocross shootout, in year 1 or 2 of being ATV on demand, starting the publication, I mean, the Yamaha was arguably the winner. I've never added up the numbers and worked it like to pick a winner. I really didn't want to choose a winner in that shootout because I felt like each bike brought a different set of benefits to the table, and different riders might have preferred a different bike based upon what it offered out of the box and their riding style and all that. We uncorked all the bikes. So, they weren't restricted during testing. I mean, the Yamaha was still half restricted. They're like, we don't need a programmer. So we ran it without one. That was before they put in the air induction system and choked it down a little bit in 2015 to meet EPA standards. I think it was 2015.
2014 started.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's right.
But it's still, from 2009 to 13, that machine still came lean from the factory. So just to clarify what you're talking about, when that machine came out brand new, it had a stalling problem because the ECU that the government allowed in the country was so bad that in 14 they put the smog system on there, they put a slipper clutch in it. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, I don't know for a fact because I'm not inside Yamaha. They did these things to offset some of that stalling issue that the ECU had, so the machine would be a little bit better for the consumer to ride. There are deals that we won't talk about, the upgrades that you can make that we will not talk about because of the people that listen and watch. I don't want them to know all of our secrets, because then, and I'm not talking about the other people in the industry because they already know them, but it's the people outside of our industry that mandate these laws that are restricting us for no reason other than the fact that they have a overwhelming ego problem and want power. But that's neither here nor there. You got me all riled up.
I think, but back to the original point was, if you come into, if you work for a smaller company, and I'm not saying Beta is a small company, and and Triumph is obviously, I don't know what the full scale of their company is. I don't think they make planes and trains like BRP and Kawasaki. But they're if a company in power sports right now wants to make a gain and they want to make it quickly and they want to get on top, you really can't get to the top quicker for less money than you could in ATV racing, motocross, and cross country.
Correct.
Yamaha bike is a great bike, and I'm not in any way insulting Yamaha, and I'll even offer a little insight. the YFZ 450R isn't getting updated. A lot of the reason because there's no reason to update it. There's nothing that can beat it. You don't need to beat yourself when you're the only player in town, and you arguably had the best bike when all the others bowed out. So I think Yamaha wishes they had a competitor, because then they would have to push, and Shatter, I get the vibe I get from those guys when I hang out with them. It's like, yeah, we wish someone would jump in this with us. We wish somebody would come and race against us and build a bike to take our bike on, because then they have a reason to progress. And I'm sure they could do so much, with how far their dirt bikes have come. I mean, geez, just the app where you can program what all that dirt bike can do. But that may not be possible with a green sticker bike to meet emissions and all that. But I think, and then if you look at the price to get a rider, think about that, Lenny. Like, what's a top ATV guy getting now? I heard rumors back in the WPSA days when all the factories were there, factory Kawasaki, factory Suzuki, factory Can-Am, the major players who were there in that sport had, 3-4 manufacturers had full factory rigs that were like Supercross rigs. And, rumor had it Gus made like, I don't remember. I've heard 500,000. I've heard 1 million. And it may have been from contingency and another sponsorship just in what Suzuki paid him. But, he might have been one of the best paid ATV racers of all time in that area. It'd be interesting to get him to disclose. I'd be really curious to know. But
I know Bird made a shit ton of money. I'm not privy to give people's numbers out. Bird made a lot of money from Honda, and I know that, speaking with Doug, he did really well with Suzuki. A couple of the other guys did really well in their deals. The lower level guys made in the 150 to 200 grand range. That I spoke to a few of those guys back in the day. The independents.
And that's the thing. Like, if a company, and I don't, just to kind of wrap it up, if a company wanted to come into it and get to the top, it's like you could come in and buy a top guy for 100 grand.
Yep.
You come in, if you're going to go get a Supercross guy, by the time he's done, you're going to pay him. If he does well, you're going to pay him probably 500,000 a year, to come and race your new bike that isn't fully developed yet, that you're working through it. You're going to a guy who maybe isn't going to be a championship threat, who's a podium threat potentially, and you're saying, hey, are you willing to risk some years of your career for our brand? You're going to have to pay for that in such a competitive sport where it's like, help us develop our bike. You may not be on the best, you may not be on the best bike. What's that?
The Supercross guys, you're paying the rider, then you're paying the other companies to do the development for you, the suspension guys to come out, the engine guys. They're not going to do it for free. In the ATV world, you're going to roll that bike out, you're going to pay that rider, and you're going to have companies lined up to do free arm work for you, to build shocks, to build A-arms, to build exhaust systems, to do all the development to make your machine a winner. And that's what they don't realize. The independence in ATV world has carried this sport all the way through, and the independent companies are the first ones to get shit on when the factories roll in. If they would have taken and spread their wing out, scooped us under it, and said, hey, we'll help you, how much stronger would our sport become?
And I feel like they did some. And maybe you guys didn't get caught up in that. You weren't one of the ones that did, but like, I know that, like, factory Suzuki, they were working directly with Yoshimura for engine work.
That's they're not even considered an ATV independent company. They're married to Suzuki, so they don't count.
Walsh, Fox, There was I mean, I don't know. I don't know at what level do you mean? Because all these factory bikes, like, I'm just trying to fully understand what your point is, because all these
So
factory bikes were using tons of currently existing aftermarket manufacturer parts.
very small amount of companies in the industry, and all of the companies that broke ground and lifted the industry to where it was got nothing. All the companies that they went to were all relatively younger companies with different people in them. And maybe I'm a little pissed about that, but maybe not. I mean, we did have some factory involvement back in the day. Walsh's company was already well established. The factory thing did help them, but they were already established. It helped Fox a ton with their ATV shock program. They would have never gotten where they are if that wouldn't have happened for them. But that being said, the factories could have spread the love out with all of the factories that came out. Most of the companies that were involved with some of the factory deals are gone. They were fly-by-nights. They came in, helped, and then gone. And the mainstay companies that are the true passionate companies, like a Walsh, they're still there. That's my take on it. For whatever it's worth, you can say yes or no. You can disagree with me, and that's fine. I lived it, and yeah,
feelings are all based on a perspective, and your feelings, obviously and I'm not saying the facts don't align with your feelings, but there's facts and then there's feelings. And as we know, the facts don't care about your feelings.
right on.
But I understand what you're saying. And I guess it does kind of make sense, and I remember, forgive me, because like, I'm not into the racing like I was back in the boom. I still follow it a little bit, but I'm not, I'm hearing about guys like Johnny Hale now, and Timmy Dentley, and I'm hearing about guys like this building motors and doing bikes. And back in the day when the factory boom was there, obviously I remember seeing you guys there still quite a bit at the beginning of the four-stroke boom. But then you had these companies popping in, like Moto Experts and D Mancheck, and D Mancheck might still be doing motors, and Moto Experts might still be doing motors.
I got
But
to talk to D. He still does motors. I had an enjoyable phone conversation with him the other day, and I'm going to try and get him on the show. He'd be a great guy to come on there and talk with us, because he's got some insights that I didn't know the man had. And I was really impressed with some of his knowledge.
he was all up in it with Natalie, who was all up in it during the boom. And I mean, Natalie was a Honda guy. He was a Can-Am guy. So yeah, I'm sure D's got some great stories to tell, because he was right up in the thick of it.
Right. And he's still doing it. And he's got a racetrack in Texas. That's where we filmed the 4130 Motorsports video, Joe.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And unfortunately he couldn't come out. There was a train crash. It locked him into his building. Then there was a problem with some product. He had an engine that he was trying to get out, so he didn't get to come out and see us at the track, or he would have came out and visited with us. He remembered that, that he wanted to come out and just couldn't make it. So, being in the position we're in, Joe, we get to have conversations and talk to the people that most of the other people don't get to. And I wish that we could bring them all with us, into the conversations. But it's very difficult to get them all on air talking. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, more people should come on. It's not really painful. You just got to get over looking at yourself on your cell phone or on your computer screen. But if I can do it, I look like Shrek, so you can do it too. So anyway, kind of back, Yeah, D Manchak's place, that was cool. I wish he would have come out. I remember you telling me that. I was a little bummed we didn't get to see him, but I've heard that his track is now kind of a private facility. Like you have to have a membership to ride there, which I don't live in the area, but man, if I did, I don't know what the cost is, but I'd pay because he's got a cool track. And he's got his main track that we did a lot of filming on. And then he also has just a whooped out sand track that's just lots of turns and short straightaways, and it's just whooped out, man. It's like watching Max Lindquist come out of a corner, build up a whole bunch of momentum, and then he hits like a 2.5 foot deep pocket, and it just sucks the energy out of the bike. And like you can see, it was rough. It was rough. It looked like it was a ton of fun. I was super jealous I didn't have a quad there and didn't get to play because it was a cool place. If you're in the Texas area, and you're looking for a place to ride that's friendly to quads, whatever, Mr. Manchak wants to ride at his place, I'd probably pay it because it's a cool facility. I was enamored with it.
It's a monthly membership, and it kind of runs itself because it's on a social media platform, a group, and you become a member of the group and you pay your fee. And the ATV guys are in a group or in the same group with the motorcycle guys, and they just work out schedules. So the motorcycle guys that don't want to ride with ATV guys are just not there when the ATV group goes. And the motorcycle guys that don't care get to show up and ride. And, they split the time, and it's the group doing it, not a overlord, telling them what days to ride so that they can work it out. Everybody can come when they want to. It's relatively new policy that he has going there, and I think it's going to work out really well for him. There was a bunch of backstory information that I'm not privy to talk about, that if D comes on the show, he will definitely, give the story to why it went this way on the track. He's still an ATV enthusiast. He's just like the rest of us. He's getting older, and you have to change where you're, you can't prioritize going to the nationals all the time or going to the races all the time, because you get to a certain point where it's just not feasible. He also has a daughter that was super successful in riding as well. I don't know, a lot of people don't know that. Did you know that, Joe?
I did not. I didn't want to admit it, but thanks.
I didn't know. I did not either. He told me all about it, and like I said, Dee's said he would come on. It's not Dee's fault that he hasn't been on the show already. It's mine, because I only have so many minutes in the day to schedule and do things for the shows. And yes, because I have 2 other jobs besides this, and that's my own fault because I didn't think I was busy enough. But no, I don't need anybody's pat on the back or shoulder telling me that I need sympathy, because I did it to myself, and I love it. But back to, we've lost total track of where we were going with everything.
Oh, we can go right back to it. I'm ready.
So, Joe, you have been talking to KO off the books, I believe, and we wanted to just brief everybody a little bit on some of the behind the scenes movement with the KO 300 that's not yet in the country. If I'm letting the cat out of the bag early, shut me off right here, right now. But we watched, you had me watch the videos. You got me excited. Now you got to tell me where we're at.
Okay, well, nothing is embargoed, but and I don't like to spread hopium either. So, kind of here's where we're at. I remember the bust of the 90s when we had nothing, except we didn't. Even in the darkest days of the 90s, for you guys who are younger that are listening, this is the worst it's been. This is the worst it's been since 1980. What was the first year of the Takati? 83, 84.
Yeah, I think it was 83.
I would say this is the worst it's been since 1982. Let's just go with that. Because in 1983, here comes the 200X. I think the Takati hit 83 or 84. So bottom line is once you got to, let's just say 1984, you had multiple high performance models. You had multiple sport models. You had, so there was some options. And then through the 90s, after the 250R went away, they carried our sport for a decade after it was discontinued in 1989. And there was some Cannondale stuff that came up around the turn of the century, and then the 400EX obviously hit in 99, and that really woke stuff up. But even in the dog days, 250R goes away in 89. In 1992, 500 LT 500 goes away in 1989. 1992 was the last year that I saw a new model LT 250 available in a dealer showroom floor, and we watched that go away. So even from 93 on, in the years where there was the least options available for us in the 90s, still wasn't that bad, because you still had the Banshee. You weren't going to beat a 250R with it unless you turned it into a 250R, with an aftermarket chassis, because they don't handle quite as well. But we had the Banshee. If you wanted to race locally, I built a motocross bike out of one, had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, it was fast. And, you had a Warrior, you had a 300EX, you had a Mojave, you had a Blaster, you had a half dozen decent little sporty machines, at least 4 or 5, still a high performance bike, and the 250R wasn't that far gone. And you had a lot of aftermarket support for that bike in the mid 90s. You fast forward to today, like we had that big boom from 2003 to 2008 when everybody was making everything, and then around 2010 things start falling off. 2011 things were falling off. So, we went from way more bikes than we maybe even had in the 3-wheeler days, in the early 2000s. It was almost, in ways, it seemed bigger than it was in the 80s, with as many machines as there were. But then obviously now here we are today, we've got Honda, or, we don't have Honda. We have Yamaha with a 700 and a 450. Honda's got a 250EX that is not the machine that the old Honda TRX 250X and 300EX were. It is not that machine. It does not have as much performance potential. So there's just not much to pick from today. It's the worst it's ever been. So that's the negativity. Now on to where we're at. So for the past 4 or 5 years, it's been an ongoing joke with me, and I guess my attitude's gotten a little worse about it. Like, I show up at a press event for a 4-wheel drive machine or a side-by-side, and even if it's Yamaha, I'm like, we're going to talk sport quads. We're going to have the conversation. And, Yamaha, our sport quad fanboys, the guys we deal with in the PR department and product testing, they love sport ATVs. Like, and privately they make no, they like it. They're into it. So those guys aren't just selling machines. They care about it. Wish they'd bring back a Raptor 250. They wish they could bring one back, but they never say why they can't. Okay. And then we go talk to Honda, and we talk to Polaris. We've talked to all the other OEMs. I won't even list them. I promise you, I've talked to all of them at least an hour more every time I see them. And it's the same crap. It's, lawyers and liability. It's like, you guys make 1,000cc crotch rocket, and you got lawyers that are worried about you building a little sport ATV. I don't buy it. I mean, yeah, I'm sure your lawyers don't like it, but if you can sell 140 horsepower crotch rocket, you can sell a 40 horsepower 4-wheeler. Don't buy it, And then, so the bottom line is, what it really comes down to, without touching on all of it, they can't sell enough sport quads and make enough of a profit that will equal or eclipse what they can make selling a bunch of far more expensive side-by-sides that aren't obtainable for the average guy. Editors in the power sports industry, we can't afford those high-end side-by-sides that we test. I'll be straight up about it. I don't know one guy in this industry that makes enough being an editor in the power sports industry. Kids, if you're looking for a career path, you ain't going to get rich in power sports industry as an editor. But it's a labor of love.
Well, so Joe, just to pronounce it, I had a guy that in the messages got on me because I supposedly have all this money, and I told him point blank, if I did this for money, I'd already be retired and sitting on all my gold and, wouldn't be doing it anymore. I do this because I love the sport. It's the passion that drives me, not the money. And I have people that used to be in my life that will tell you 100%. I was more passionate about the industry than them. And that's why there's no relationship there anymore. Fortunately, my wife now, I love her to death, and she backs everything that I do to a point, but I do not do this for money. Never have done this for money. And there's a lot of people in the industry that just pour their passion into it because they love the off-road, the ATVs, which I'm the ATV guy, but I love the off-road industry, and that's why this is happening. And anybody that thinks that I'm doing it for money, I don't even own a quad, because every time that I do build one, because I have the ability to build nice stuff, somebody buys it from me, but that just pays off the debt that I incurred to build it, not putting money in my pocket. So no, I don't do this. It's not a financially lucrative business.
And of course, like, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I want to get back to where we're going. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you're not going to get rich as an editor or in media and power sports. You're not going to get rich. It's a labor of love. If you build bikes and you build really nice bikes, yeah, you can make some money selling a really nice bike. But yeah, we don't get rich. And I can tell you honestly, like, 100%, we don't get paid by the manufacturers for testing their machines. They do not pay us jack. And we could never accept payment for reviewing machines, because then there would be the implication of bias. And I'm not anybody. I'm a Yamaha fanboy because Yamaha makes sport quads at this point. But as soon as Honda builds a better one, I'll be happy to hand the crown to them and let them win a shootout, or it will win a shootout if it's the better bike. There's no bias. And we don't get paid by the major OEMs for what we do. So nobody's getting rich as an editor. So anyway, the bottom line is this: we are getting nothing but negativity from the major manufacturers when it comes to the idea of building a sport machine. I talked to Carl Kramer a couple of years ago when he was the head editor at Dirt Wheels before Jeff Henson took it over. And Jeff and I have since become buds really pretty good over the last year. I've made a lot of new friends over the past 3 years in this. It seems like just started collecting people that I've even known for years. Like you, we talk all the time. Jeff, we talk all the time. And it's amazing because when you connect with like-minded people that have done this for a long time, things start to roll. Things start to happen. And a good example of this was, Carl told me a couple of years ago, Joe, you're barking up the wrong tree with these manufacturers. If you're going to get a new sport ATV and people, bite your tongue, like it or not, he said, it's probably going to come out of China. And as we discussed on the episode with Mike Walsh, Japanese stuff was pop metal garbage in 1960. By 1980, they were leading everything in dirt bikes. In the 80s, you wanted Japanese bikes. Even today, even in side-by-sides, there are people that are like, I won't buy a Polaris. I won't buy a Can-Am. I want Japanese engineering. So, yeah, but I want sport quads too. And I'm going to tell you, I'm at my wit's end with it. I accept it. I doubt any of the major OEMs are going to come back into it for a while, unless they are motivated by their own greed, and we're all in it to make money to some degree, and I don't blame them for that. But they're ignoring young people and their economic ability to buy a machine. And that's what the most important thing is with sport ATVs, is it allows a more affordable platform for younger people to get out and buy something and get involved in off-road riding. So
Well, let me interrupt you for 1 second here. So based on what you said about the Japanese technology, that usually a lot of the developments happens here and then goes to those companies. Do you think with KTM going to do their manufacturing in China, and can you see a Chinese company coming and picking a handful of the US people, bringing them into their company, and maybe possibly trying to build a sport quad? Do you think that that is a possibility?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I definitely do. So where we're at, and I'm gonna unload about 2/3 of what's going on, and I'm gonna kind of hold the last third back, because I don't want to spread hopium. So Carl says it might come from China. He said that we tested a KO 200. You might want to check it out. I read their review on it, and it's like I kept looking. I went and read the review twice over the course of a year, and I looked at a bunch of KO 200 videos online, and it's like, okay, all right, but it's a 200, so it's not going to be a Raptor replacement. The Raptor 250 is the 250R of youth racing at this point. It was built 10 years ago. If you're racing cross country and you're not on a hybrid and you're in that 12 to 15 age range, which is allowed by racing bodies, it's not recommended by the manufacturers, but it's your child, it's your choice. Racing organizations allow it. I'm not going to argue about it. But you've got, and these kids are doing fine with it. So whatever.
Do you think that we can go? Do you think that we could change those laws? Do you think that we could ever implement some kind of change?
They kind of already have. They kind of already have, fortunately. There's the T14 law that allows kids to ride slightly bigger machines, but they just have to limit the speed down to 35 miles an hour. So, whatever. You could build a gearbox quad and put a wire on it or a restrictor in the throttle or something. People smarter than me could figure out how to do it. Put an app in it electronically with the ECU where the parents can have an app on their phone and they can unrestrict the bike, whatever. But started looking at the KO stuff a lot. Then started kind of thinking I remember back in the 90s when Dirt Wheels would test those European quads, like what were they? KLMs or no?
Well, you got to ask me
purple and ELMs, I think it was. They were purple and white. They had KTM motors in them. Phillips? Might have been a Phillips. I think they were Phillips. Shit, I apologize. But Dirt Wheels used to find bikes in Europe that we didn't have over here, and then they'd build stuff like a Liger chassis XR600 and be like, these are the things that people could do, that people could build. So I was like, I haven't seen much of that lately. I'm going to start digging on the internet and see what they have in Europe that we don't have over here. So found videos of KO's A300, which was like, oh, you have a 300. Oh, that you don't sell here. That bike, I'm not going to kind of dig too far into the specifications of it. Dirt Wheels has an upcoming story on the KO A300 that's going to go through a lot of the specifications that we know about it. They've done some digging with the company. You'll learn quite a bit about that bike in that story when it comes out. But once I saw that the 300 existed, it was like, oh man, I got to try to make this happen. So immediately reached out to KO, asked for a Jackal to test. They're like, yeah, let's do it. They looked at our channel and what we do on our website. And I told him, the 200 is cool. I think, it's cool. It's got its place. Nice little rec quad. I can see some up and coming riders having some fun with it. It's intended as a 16 and up bike. That's all I say. Again, parents, it's up, you get to pick what your kids ride. I don't, and no one else should either. But I told him, the 300 is what we need. The 300 is what the U.S. market needs, because both bikes, the 200 and the 300, are 16 and up bikes. The 300, obviously, the 200 is a 2-valve single overhead cam carbureted 4-speed with reverse. Don't know why they didn't leave a 5-speed in it. That was one of our criticisms of the Jackal 200. It should have had a 5-speed. I had traded reverse gear for a 5th gear for it forward. If you got to back up, get off and push the bike. But the 300 has a 5-speed with reverse. The only specs I'm going into is it's a 4-valve double overhead cam engine that's fuel injected. And it's got a decent compression ratio. So, and I've heard it run. Go to YouTube, as soon as you're done watching this, go YouTube KOA300, KAYO, and you can hear the thing run. It sounds like it revs. I've told numerous people I know, like, look this up, check it out. And they're like, this thing looks surprisingly capable. It sounds and it looks like it's surprisingly quick for what it is. So, I told KO during this conversation about the Jackal before we got it, are you guys going to bring that into the country? And they're like, yeah, they don't really know if they want to, because we just, getting it through emissions, and getting the 200 through emissions was the same as getting the 300 through emissions. You got to go through all the same steps. Like, they don't get a break for bringing in a smaller unit. And I'm like, well, if you had to do all the same work for the 300 that you did the 200, and you're not sure, in my opinion, you'd probably sell 3 times as many of the 300 as the 200, because as a 16 and up machine, a 300 4-stroke, you can have some fun with that. Like, one of the best media intros ever was Yamaha's Long Beach press event for the media when they launched the Raptor 250. A whole bunch of us on a little track that was cool with little jumps and tons of berms, right next to the Queen Mary, and we're just out here banging bars and rubbing wheels, and it was so much fun. And all of us came away like really having a lot of fondness and respect for that little Raptor 250, even as grown-ass men who've been doing this for a long time. It's like, this bike's fun. So the KO 300 looks as though, and seems as though, it could be the Raptor replacement that, number one, youth racers need at this point, because the Raptor 250 is aging out with availability of machines, just getting older. And, so you got to have something else to go to besides a hybrid if you want to keep things kind of affordable. So this machine looks to have a lot of the right stuff to maybe do that. Now, the Jackal 200, we reviewed it. It's not quite Honda quality as far as the finishing touches. There's a few little odd things about it. The hardware that they use to assemble it, the thread tolerances are very tight. Things kind of screw in kind of snugly. It's not stripping out, just the threads are so tight against one another. Too much. But, it's got a round housing swing arm with a dual pinch carrier. The weld quality looks pretty decent. Is it quite as nice as my Raptor 700? No. Is it at least better than that LT 230 I've got in the basement from the mid 80s that still lives on today? Yeah, I'd say it's at least that good. So the chassis, the bones on the 200 look decent. If we get that with the 300, if that bike came in the country, it would probably be less than half the price of a Yamaha at this point. And so affordability should be there. Looks like performance could be there. And if build quality is at least as good as the 200, maybe a little better, I have some hope. I have some hope. What we've done to try to encourage KO is, well, number one, we mentioned it in our test, of the Jackal. We said, hey, they've got this. This is what we need. The Raptor, KO 200, probably not the Raptor replacement we're looking for, but this bike might be. And we did it at the beginning, and KO has gotten a response from consumers and dealers that are interested in that 300 coming to the States now. I shocked them because as soon as I knew I was getting the 200, I started looking for parts, nothing. So started making some calls. Leon spied, and I'm like, we had a conversation. I'm like, Rossier only does sport quad stuff, right? He says, yeah. And I said, do you know him? He's like, oh, I've talked to David. So he sent Dave a message, and I heard back from him like a month or two after he sent the message. He's like, hey, somebody wanted to talk to me about a quad. So bottom line is, I talked to Rossier about would they build a pipe, and they're like, yeah, we'll build a pipe. And then Fuel Customs saw that we tested the Jackal 200 and was like, hey, I want to learn more about this machine. Are there any parts available? How many have they sold? So he and I had a conversation, and he's like, I want to build an intake for this. I want to come up with a jetting solution or a carburetor solution for this. So now we got a pipe builder, we got an intake guy. We should have that little 200 flowing, from the intake to the exhaust. Why do I always get company names? DBR?
Yeah, DBR is going to make skid plates for it.
Yeah, they're going to make skid plates for it. Sorry, Chris. You can chastise me later. There's so many companies in here. You got DBR, TPC, PEP. There's a lot of 3-letter companies in this industry.
Probably going to make other little trinkets for it because he's an innovative guy. So you could look for some stuff from him on that note. I know that while you're talking, my mind is calculating some stuff that needs to be also done for it. I would never let the cat out of the bag because the people that I'm going to have to reach out to have to do it on their own. I can't do it for them. All I can do is present it to them and let them decide what they're going to do.
So
same with, did you, not to slow you down, but did you talk to Ed Textera about it to see if he would be interested in making product for it?
I haven't for the 200. My main goal with the 200 is, and people who, if somebody thinks I'm wrong, then tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. I look at the 200 as this is a young rider's bike who's getting his first sport quad. And one of the things that we all like to do as sport quad owners is we like to hop them up. We like to make them our own. That bike doesn't even have a chassis skid plate available for it. So, DBR doing that skid plate is really the number one mod that bike needs. Because if you're going to go out and ride it in the rocks and you're going to wheelie over a log and drag your frame across it, you want to protect it. And you want to protect the bottom of the engine. It doesn't even have an engine skid plate. So DBR doing some skid plates is the number one thing that anyone's going to need who's going to want to seriously trail ride that bike. And I was the test rider, as bad as I was, but I'm 200 pounds. That thing pulled me up hills. I jumped it. If I flat landed it from, 3 feet in the air and I wasn't nice, I could get it to bottom, but it didn't bottom easily. And the suspension's a little firm, but it's got to be firm not to bottom. So, and it's stable, and the clutch is light, and the brakes have the power that I would expect from a Japanese youth quad. So it's got, as much as it's like there's little things that are kind of like, it could be refined. It's like all the big things. It's like, it's kind of cool. So we've got a pipe coming from Rossier. We got an intake coming. We got skid plates coming. And maybe more from DBR if they want to do anything else. I'll let him make that decision when he gets his hands on the bike. And I talked to Clark Jones at Nolene, because you might want to put aftermarket shocks on it, especially if you wear the stock ones out. They're not rebuildable. So not saying the stock shocks are just pure crap, but stock shocks that aren't rebuildable wear out. You have to upgrade at some point. So Nolene is going to get their hands on the bike, and they're going to spend a couple weeks with it, and they're going to develop a shock setup for it, which is good because that means, you know, for our bike, he's going to build us an affordable set of suspension, one of the most affordable setups he can do, because it's a $3,600 four-wheeler. You know, we don't want to start off putting $3,000 worth of shocks on a bike that is not going to be a commonly raced platform. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll take off. If you guys want to race it, go for it. I think the 300 looks more like a raceable platform. So I'm not really trying to twist the arm of chassis people at this point to build for the 200, because it's not a Raptor replacement. The 300 might be.
Asking because you and Ed talk a lot, and I was just trying to see if you know, another suspension person had shown any interest in it whatsoever, other than Nolene making some shocks for it. I know that if it becomes a machine, Elka would jump in and make some replacement shocks for it. But that was just my reason for bringing that up. Joe, as always, I appreciate everything that you do. I know that there's more to talk about with this machine, and I'm going to leave you hanging a little bit on that and let you finish it in the next go around.
Maybe. I mean, there's definitely more story to be told. There are conversations happening. No hopium, but fingers crossed. You know, my goal in this is I want to be able to go tell all these other manufacturers that say they don't care, there's no demand. Well, then you don't care. If we get another bike into the market and it does well and people start showing up with it, then, you know, what do you guys care? You weren't interested. Maybe you are now. So, you know, but the main goal for me is I love this sport. I love this industry. I've had a great time with a lot of people in it, and I want to do, whether I'm successful or I fail right now, I really just want to try to get some other entry level and more sport machines into the segment. If I can have any impact, that's the goal. So
I think that's commendable, and that's what I'm trying to do with the shows that we do and the stories, and trying to get involved with as much of the aftermarket building stuff as I can. I'm just so freaking busy sometimes that good intentions mean nothing in this world. But Joe, as always, brother, it's an honor to have you on the show. I thank you so much. And to Adam McGill and anybody that was looking to see him on the show today, Adam, you know, is an upstanding young man, and like I said, one of the Iron Men of the olden day in our industry. Hopefully we'll get him on another show and make it good with everybody. So Joe Tolle from ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand, we will see you in the future. And thank you so much for everything that you brought to the table today. I couldn't have put this together without you last minute like that. Your insights were awesome. And your topic selections I really liked. So thank you so much, sir.
Hey, my pleasure. We'd be on the phone rambling if we weren't doing it live. So thanks to everybody who's listening in on the phone call.
Well, yeah, there are people in the chat, and some of the things they're talking about we can't do, and some of the things that we would like to do they're talking about. So we'll see how it goes and see what we can come up with. I know next week's show we will have a banner out and a guest lineup, and we'll go from there. I appreciate you again, Joe. You have an amazing weekend, and thank you so much.
You too, brother. Take care. Everyone have a great weekend.
Anybody that's listening, subscribe, tell your friends, like us. It always helps in the algorithms. And yes, as much as I tried not to ever say any of these things, we need the advantage to grow. So if you're sharing us and subscribing, that helps us. And thank you so much, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. See you later, Joe.
See you. Have a good one.
Bye.